Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Kandace and Denise. Let's go.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. We are now being joined by Mr. Bradon Roberts, who is the Tobago Officer for Tutor. Good morning and welcome to you. How are you?
Good morning, and it's nice to be back on set.
It's also nice to have you back with us in Tobago. So Mr. Roberts, how have things been going over the July-August vacation as it pertains to the maintenance or the repair works of our school compounds throughout the island?
Well, I try to be optimistic based on what I've been seeing. I know that the THA really and truly doesn't have funds. So I don't expect any extensive work to be done. However, there are schools with some issues that they would have been submitting for some years now. Now, I know that the division will be working with a particular budget. They have a very limited budget this time around.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these principals would have indicated that some work would have started last week, some the week before. They are doing minor things, more like the electrical works, plumbing works. But there are some schools with some significant challenges that we would hope that some attention is placed to it. I'm also hearing about some things that have been done that are not even necessary. I'm not certain for the reason for those things, but we are hoping that September does not result in us having to do any action for any particular school where the health and safety, that the division makes sure that they treat those health and safety issues. Because September to December term, that term you won't have much disruption. So you wouldn't want school to shut down for any particular reason. And I'm hearing about schools where even the rats, the infestation is there again. At St. Andrew, I don't know if they did any work with that. Mm. I'm also now hearing about Bethesda government with rat infestation as well. We have had some submissions from the secretary, and in all fairness, the secretary usually have good ideas, you know, that's not materializing. We were told about some health team and health officials to be assigned to schools, and I don't know that was ever put in place. Mm. We were told about this artisan team where you would have persons from the division of where we call it works, would team up with those from PIU and would monitor schools. That has never been put in place. I don't know what logistical challenges they would have had. But we are hearing these ideas, but they are not being put in place. So I don't know that I could say we are feeling good about the reopening for September, knowing the challenges that the THA rightfully facing with funding and the issues that schools really have. Mm-hmm. So we will try our very best to see how best we can work, but we can't compromise health and safety.
Certainly. Yeah. And I mean, in the case of the rat infestation at St. Andrews, and now we're hearing it's Bethesda.
Yeah.
Right. You know, that also speaks to a community issue. Is there an attempt, I mean, or have we seen an attempt to, let's say, even address it on a community level?
Well, I'm not certain how the communication flows, but by rights, the principal will send the information to the division. Mm-hmm. The division can liaise with whoever different bodies to ensure they address the matter. So we would have had confirmation that information would have been sent to the division. However, the principal deals with the community. I do not the principal have the authority to instruct however the community participates in that particular function. So the division would have to liaise with whoever they need to liaise with. I know they would have partnered with health the last time around, especially with St. Andrew's School. So they need to have the necessary collaboration, and they need to be the one leading that.
Interesting. And then in terms of some of the other, what are the priorities? Like noting the funding constraints that we have at the division, what would you suggest as the priorities or the focus of the resources of the division into what areas in terms of maintenance?
All right. So we have had for years, and it would be a great challenge for the division in any administration to treat all of them at the same time. The schools are getting old. They are aging. So we have roofing issues. We will have termite issues. And the termite issues are great. You go through our furniture, the flooring, the blackboards. So the treatment measures that they have been applying over the years is more to keep them at bay for a while, but they hardly change out some of those, the board floorings and those things. So those significant things need to be treated with. I would have seen some pictures yesterday, day before yesterday, from Rockville Secondary, where the ceiling from a leaking roof, the ceiling has reached to the point where it have fallen in. They would have shown some of the boards in the school where it's termite ridden and it's in a deplorable state. So there are some schools where the flooring, the ceiling, the roofing issues, they need to be treated with. So if they are focusing mainly on the electricals and the plumbing, yes, those are important to ensure the toilets are working properly, you can have access to water and so on. But there are other significant health and safety issues, and rat infestation is one to not even joke about.
Yes.
So they need to have that check of all those schools. I'm not saying that is being done. And to treat with rats is not a 1 week or 2 days thing. It takes a while. You need to set bait if you need to set bait, wait for the rats to catch, and then to do the cleanup. There's a lot of work to go into that. So I'm not saying that anything was done at St. Andrews, and I'm not hearing about Bethesda. I'm not saying that anything was done with Bethesda neither.
And then what about, are you seeing any attempt from the division even to reach out to the business sector or just the community in general to see how we can help? Because I mean, if we have funding issues, then we need to access funding from elsewhere to make sure that our facilities are up to mark. Because at the end of the day, our children's education is extremely important.
I'm grateful that you asked that question. I have been putting forward this suggestion to the division and even to the ministry as well. We need to know the programs of our school. It's no longer where we could depend on the division and the ministry, but the ministry also give us this no money excuse as well. We would need a collaborative effort. How would we expect the business sector to contribute when they don't even know what the program of the school is? So we need to have schools with a particular focus. That's why this whole Tobago-centric thing come up again. If we know the programs of the schools, we know the issues of the schools, then the business sector would know where to assist. So our principal would just go to the business sector and say, we need money for this in isolation. The business sector would not be so inclined as if the division are working with the schools and putting out the information to the business sector and asking for that collaboration, where we will all work towards this village and everybody working with the school. So if we don't put out that information as to what the program of the school is, I would have asked when the budget was read for this with the THE. The division need to put out what are their debts. If we want to say central government is robbing us, we need to show let the public come in and support that cry. So show the public, all right, we need 5 million to the outstanding school feeding program. We need 2 million with the taxi drivers how to pick up. What are the debts? The teachers that we owe, the increments and so on, what are those debts? So at least we will know that the division really needs to have a greater allocation from central government. All we are hearing is, they have this big budget. Yes, I know that it is needed. How can the public support your cry? How can tutors support your cry when you're not putting out that kind of information? We need to know those debts. So the business sector will realize, yeah, the teacher really need our support. If we don't communicate like that with the public, we will not get that kind of support. And I have been putting it on the table for some time. First of all, we need to know what are the programs of our schools, have that so that even parents understands that this is what Skybersec really focusing on. This is the strengths of Skybersec Secondary School. These are the weaknesses, how I could alleviate some of those weaknesses. How I could further strengthen those strengths that they have because, we can live Skybersec in this particular way. That information is not going out there. It may need some schools to really restructure their program to put it together to be able to sell their package. But that has been on the table for some time. But I don't see the business sector coming out and offering these funds if we don't have that level of communication.
And as you spoke a little bit about the Tobago-centric education drive, or this idea that's been spoken about since this administration took office, you said that nothing has been done. Any movement at all? Because we're hearing from that side, from the administration side, that yes, they're working in the background to make it happen, but really, what's happening with it?
From my experience, even in tutor, you see, the easy way to not get things done is have meetings. So they could say what's happening in the background, and they meeting and they have meetings. Probably they may be having meetings, but nothing is coming forward. We have a serious concern with the direction of education in Tobago for some years.
Yes.
I know that CAPE and CXC, they have the results to come out. When we have top students, we celebrate them, But the struggles that teachers and students have throughout the term, we pay no attention to that. We just celebrate as if the division or the school did a great job. But the effort that needs to go in. The Tobago-centric curriculum, we need to see some kind of drafting of it. Invite stakeholders to give their input. I have not been invited to any meeting. I don't have any other stakeholder being invited to any meeting. So let's have to help build out what this thing could look like. Because there are persons out there with ideas, The idea, even with the health units monitoring particular schools and so on, those are good ideas. The artisan team, I don't know what the logistics are, why we want to, those are really good ideas. But we need to not just have an idea and come to the public and say nice things and then it not happening. So it is frustrating for teachers who are putting extra all the time. They do extra all the time. They're not being recognized for it. And then they are chastised when anything happens. And we have these fancy speeches coming forward from the administration and then there's no action to back it up. So it is very frustrating for teachers. And I will say this much. By October, if we would have had the conversation at the division already, we are monitoring the operation. There are teachers who find tutor too soft in the division right now. I know that they have no money. So whether we protest in the morning, we make noise, we still have no money.
Yes.
So you see when the budget read, you like to get from the division, what's their plan of action? And then October, we would have to see how we respond to their plan of action. And I foresee we'll be a lot more assertive where the division is concerned because, yes, I understand we don't have any money, but management of the funds and the resources is what would make the difference. And they need to better manage that because there are so many teachers. There are teachers know that they will be owing close to $500,000 or no. About 22 years of their issues not being resolved. Now, the HR unit is doing a good job, I would say that. So they're processing all the outstanding things that they needed to process. But then they now go to accounts. And if they were outstanding for several years, then you owe teachers a lot of money. And then they have the no money syndrome in accounts.
But we've heard several times that in terms of gratuities and that sort of thing, a lot of it has been paid over the past year. From your side, what do you see has been paid, if at all?
Right. So I am wary of politicians. They come and they say nice things. They don't bring the details to say. I would have put about $25 million they paid out. I haven't seen any evidence of that. I know that some persons got their increment, some persons got their gratuity, but to the tune of 25 million. If you owe 70 million and you pay 25, that's something to champion. So coming to say we pay 25, what do you owe? Based on the last conversation I had, they may be owing upwards of $6 million to teachers. So the teachers who are at $6,000 a month salary because of paperwork not being done and whatever arrears they're not calculating and to pay. After you pay a mortgage, you pay a light bill and you pay all those things, you go to the grocery. What you have for yourself? And then we are spending money on all different things in Tobago. We say to these teachers, we have no money to pay you the money that you worked for. We're not asking for new things or raise a pay and so on. Negotiations have gone a long time. It's money that they worked for already that we are unable to get because of the management of the funds. Now, it won't be unfair to the division. You could only work with the budget you have. But you need to strongly advocate for more funds. You don't sit back and be comfortable telling me I have no money. So if you help me by providing me the information, we could have a joint advocacy for greater funds from central government. But we're not getting that kind of information. All we're hearing is they have no money.
And then how does this leave teachers when school starts? Because we often hear sometimes that teachers may not have the necessary supplies and they constantly have to dip their hands in their pockets to be able to, effectively do their job and reach the students at their level.
Well, I don't even know how some principals would fare this term because a lot of the funds that they're supposed to get for the beginning of the school year, they don't get it sometimes until the second term, sometimes late into the third term, they're now getting some of the money they were supposed to have in the beginning. We also saw the release from the minister in that schools should not be asking for any funds at registration. So what do we expect our principals and our schools to operate with? So of course, we bank on our teachers. These same teachers, and I'm not going to say the Tobago officer and working on their behalf. So I indicated already, we're going to see how the budget reads. The excuse of the no money will surpass by September month end.
Yes.
And we would then channel our actions within October to treat with that, because our teachers who are imparting that education to and guiding our students need to be able to give up their best. You can't ask for the best when we are treating them in this shoddy way. And they give these excuses and come to the media as if everything is all right. And that is where the frustration is.
And I mean, tell me a little bit about how much it is discouraging when you can't even purchase, let's say, markers for the board and that sort of thing, because all of those things are what teachers have to dip in their pockets for.
Yes, and you see, that's where the frustration then comes to tutor, because they're doing it. They're spending their money and they're blaming tutor because they're not getting it. But you see, what happens though, because we are upholding it by buying and filling in the gap, the division don't see the need because teaching taking place. So we don't supply the schools, teachers will find a way either way. You see, the day that teachers put down their foot and say we're not doing this anymore, then it would expose how much we have been upholding a system that the division or the ministry is supposed to be taking care of. Now, it's very difficult for a teacher to say we are not doing this. Be careful, our students. So to say that we are not going to get the resources and we are not going to do any extra for our school, it's very difficult to have our teachers to say we're going to go with that, because we care about our students. And if we were to do it, they blame the same teachers they blame for not caring. But teachers, it's very frustrating to know that you can't have a mortgage and probably have your spouse be a part of that plan to be able to qualify for it based on what is being afforded. And not because they don't qualify really in terms of getting a proper salary. It's paperwork that is being stored at the division. It's funds owed to these teachers that is being listed there in accounts because they have no money to pay. These little things, it does not give any encouragement to a teacher. So it is indeed frustrating, and I would say, again, this will be the third time saying it, it's by October. Our level of advocacy would definitely have to step up. There has been progress on a lot of matters at the division. So it's not that we have been giving the division a free pass. The administrator there is doing some really good work. However, she is working with what money she has. And the excuse of that would not last forever. So by October, we will see how we would change or step up our advocacy on those different matters. But work is being done at the division, I would say that much, but it's not enough to meet the needs of our members. And our members are the ones who are charged with taking this country forward in imparting the knowledge to our younger ones. So the secretary and the team, the THA on a whole, they need to have that strategy as to how we're going to really take Tobago forward in terms of education, because education would solve majority of our problems in Trinidad and Tobago. However, it's the department where we're not seeing that effort, because if you came into the THA 2021, and we know that we had all these issues, I am not seeing any significant injection into any new idea. We are getting the ideas, but we are not seeing the changes from those ideas. So something needs to happen, or else we're going to continue frustrating each other.
And then, the last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about the SAA results and that sort of thing. And I know that you needed some time to go through the analytics and figure out what really happened there. So I don't know if there's any new information you could share from your end, from the teachers end, after being able to go through the stats and so on.
Right, so going through, and while I did not collect the hard copy data because that wasn't issued in a way in which you could get the data for all schools. The conversation with the teachers is that, yes, some of the students would have done well. We can't focus too much on those who would have done well. The large section of the students did not do too well. Those are the persons we need to ensure that we help, because when education fails, they are the ones who we run down in the streets 5-10 years from now. So we need to ensure that we minimize those students who are not doing well. There should never be a case where a large section or within a particular class there are 5 children at standard 4, standard 5 level who cannot read. What drive do we have for reading on the island? So these are some of the things that we want to hear, not an impact program where you have 4 weeks, you have different teachers teaching different students. It takes some time to learn the students in front of you. You don't teach content, no, it's students you're teaching. You have to learn those students and tailor your content for those students. So a 4-week, 5-week period of an impact program and call it Project Impact. Yes, it is something, but at this stage, it's not to give something. We have to have something of substance that we could really hold on to say, yes, we are seeing the impact of this on our students for the next term and when they go to secondary school, how it really affected them. I don't know that we are making any effort to change the results. We are hoping that the results change. We have to have program-oriented or project-oriented schools. What is the particular focus or the taste of Tobago and the taste of something? My understanding of the taste, students need to have some way of relating the information. A lot of the work that we teach at schools, it's not meaningful to the students. We look at tan and cosine and those things. How many persons use that in today's work?
I certainly don't.
We don't. So we need to have the content in such a way where it relates to me. So whoever is the tile person, we know how the importance of understanding perimeter, the importance of area. There are students that we need to calculate. So we need to be able to relate our content to different things.
And that's a concern that even I had when I was in school almost 30 years ago. Because you were learning these things, but you were just taught this is the formula you had to learn, memorize it, and regurgitate it on CXC papers. But how does this situation even compare the performance of our students compare with the rest of the Caribbean? Is the rest of the Caribbean experiencing the same problems? Or is it only endemic to Tobago?
No, it's not just the Caribbean. No, it's foreign. I would have looked at the international news where in America they were talking about how many of the third graders having reading challenges and so on. However, while comparing, it's good to have a benchmark as to where you are in comparison to others. We could analyze ourselves and see and compare with ourselves to see how we can lift that bar. So if we are leading in the Caribbean, that doesn't satisfy me. We have serious gaps and there are ways to address that gap. If we tailor our content to tourism, tailor our content to agriculture, tailor our content to the tech work subjects, the woodwork and the metalwork, and so it would have greater meaning to our students. We can then develop projects a lot easier so that students will know and parents will know, the stakeholders will know how we can all work together with this particular project. I would always refer to a graduation I went to Goodwood Secondary and the hospitality there from the students, because the principal would have put students to greet you, carry you to your seat, they understood protocol. So those kind of training could be done with the content that we have to teach, and you just tailor it along the line of hospitality, tourism, whatever it is, so that they would learn not just the content, but the way of life that comes out with this taste of Tobago, a taste of however I want to call it. This Tobago-centric thing is something I really bought into. And it can be done, it's not difficult, but the conversation needs to take place. I don't know where the conversation is.
Well, we are going to be continuing with our conversation. So Mr. Bradon Roberts is still going to be with us for a little bit. So don't go anywhere because we just got to take a quick break, but we'll be back.
I say, thanks a favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong. Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Kandace and Denasia.
Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Yes, we are continuing our conversation this morning with the Tobago Officer for Tutor, Mr. Bradon Roberts, as we discuss a lot of the education issues within the space. So, Mr. Roberts, I just want to get an idea from you now. We, in 2023, we had the pandemic in 2020 that shut us into online learning and that sort of thing. Where are we now in terms of incorporating technology with education? And we know that's supposed to be a focus of the division. In fact, it's in the title, the Division of Education, Research and Technology. How much have we incorporated technology in our system?
Well, I would say with some level of pleasure that the secretary, the administrator that have worked towards putting a committee in place. I'm on that committee, where we're going to look at the framework for that policy for online engagement. We would have had throughout the pandemic where it was ad hoc. So we had an emergency and we asked teachers to do certain things. Some of the things that we were asked of, the interpretation by some principals and some supervisors were different and there were complaints. So we need to have a framework for that. So there is a committee working on that. There would have been some progress made. I'm not certain the deadline of September if we would have that completion, but there's work being done currently with that. The ministry is also working on a similar framework, but the ministry, I'm not certain how advanced they are, but the framework that they would have drafted is very vague. And I understand that they would want it to be vague, because if it's specific, then they would understand the responsibilities and the financial commitment they would have to put in. When it's vague, then we leave it for whoever teaches to fill the void. We cannot afford to allow that the division and the ministry would put a system in place that would further put burden on teachers to get the devices and the packages and then have the planning time to do virtual engagement, because planning for virtual engagement is very difficult in terms of time, managing the time to do such. But work is being done in planning the framework. I am not seeing any work and understanding the budget of everything comes down to dollars and cents.
Certainly.
Understanding the budget of the THA, I'm not certain how soon we'll be able to be ready for online engagement. Because we are looking at devices, one. We are looking at connectivity issues where we have certain black spots and where the connectivity is low in certain areas. Some schools don't have the current bandwidth to deal with even one class all going on the network at the same time. So we have those infrastructural issues, connectivity issues, the devices and so on, that we have to treat with. But in the meantime, we are preparing that framework for the execution and the operationalization of it.
All right. And then, when you look at what's going on, even in the region, in terms of online learning and getting our students there, because we have to look at what's happening in technology on a world scale and how things are changing so rapidly. What are we seeing?
Well, even during the pandemic, some of our Caribbean brothers and sisters, they already had their negotiation with the union and the teachers and so on and put something in place, What we would have had when tutor reached out to to the minister first was a shutout. They had their idea of what they want teachers to do, and they were issuing these requests. We went to the CPO, and the CPO said, well, there's nothing on the table to negotiate because there's no policy. So now we are at this formation phase where some of our Caribbean brothers and sisters already gone past that. So you see, politics really, it's hindering us in Trinidad and Tobago because we have this kind of power struggle. So you know that the minister probably wants to have it as hurting. Because there isn't even a consultation now with the national body where tutor and the minister or the ministry is working towards their framework. The minister and her team is doing this framework and sending it to tutor to look at. It's different in the division, and that's why I'm pleased with how the secretary has approached it, where they would have brought me in as someone from tutor. So as we work it through, we wouldn't have that back and forth bantering when you bring up your own thing and we have to now respond to it. So we are making some headway there, but outside of the framework, we would need the infrastructural and device issues, technology issues, which is dollars and cents. I'm not optimistic because of the financial constraints the THE has.
And then when we look at, again, just the changing world that we live in, the growth of technology, the incorporation of AI and that sort of thing, and that this is a serious conversation. It's one that us as Caribbean journalists are actually having quite a lot within our space. But when we look at how are we preparing our students for this new world where a lot of the traditional jobs, again, we're seeing another phase of this where things are being phased out. And are we preparing our students to take those roles, those very instrumental roles, or those futuristic roles that's going to come?
And when you say AI, I mean artificial intelligence, right? To the listeners.
Yes.
Right. So, yes, and those things are expected to come on stream, That's why the world has moved forward from the teacher-centered education where the teacher just give what they have. So if I plan to teach fractions today, I come to give that to the students. The students are a blank slate and I give you knowledge. That's not what we are today. We are now student-centered, and the belief is students have the intelligence. We need to guide them. So we need to guide our students to be creative thinkers. And that's how they fit into the world. So if we have too many students who are not even able to read, how are we going to tap into the intelligence that they have? So if we don't make the content meaningful and relatable to our students, they will not become creative thinkers. And they will be left behind in this world where AI or artificial intelligence is leading the way. I would have seen in some program where they were interviewing a robot.
Yes.
And the robot giving responses and so on. Now, it's programmed for such. We would need our students to find some way of being creative, whether it's in food preparation or whatever it is. We need to tap into their intelligence. Our students have levels of intelligence. It's for us to be able to tap into it and strengthen it. So as teachers, as I said, it's student-centered education, where we channel the education based on the students. So as I mentioned before, the impact program, having just 4 weeks. How can we guide the students when we need to take time to learn the students to be able to guide them in 4 weeks? So we need to have something more sustainable throughout the academic year, where we know what is the program of each school. We know what the project of each school is. We can see how we can make our students creative thinkers so that they can fit into this world that is fast moving. So as you said, some of these jobs will no longer be needed. So we have greater competition for particular sectors. We need to give our students, and when I did some teaching over the vacation period, well, I took holidays and I volunteered to do some teaching, explaining to the students, the more you participate and excel at school, you leave your options broad as to who you can become, what job you can take. The less you participate in school, the less you put in that effort into your reading ability and so on, you are minimizing the opportunities you can take in terms of jobs. So we need to ensure that our programs are our schools are outfitted, the programs to keep the options broad for all our students. Too many of our students have been left behind.
Certainly, and that's such a great point to leave on. The fact that we need to push just simple, basic reading, writing, and comprehension skills. And hopefully, man, I hope that the division and those people that are in those key positions are really listening, because the world is changing very quickly. And if we don't move and prepare our students, then they are going to be left behind. And then as a society, we are going to be left behind. And
so if I can say in closing, you see, if we have a goal, and we know that this is the goal we're working towards, and we can strategize towards reaching that particular goal, then all of us will be able to fit in. I don't know what the goal is. I don't know what we're trying to achieve by 2024, 2025, 2026. What are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to uplift the reading ability? Are we trying to improve technology? What is the goal? Then we have the strategies to achieving that goal, and we can measure it as we go past the terms. So those are the things I expect to see from the Secretary and her team going forward.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mr. Roberts. And viewers, thank you certainly for being on with us and for staying with us throughout this conversation. And I just hope you have a wonderful, safe, and productive day. And we will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.
Tobago updates.